All right, so we go across to our panelists who continue to be with us. Seema, I bring you in here. Seema is also the author of Friends with Benefits, the India-US story. What is your assessment about what you see around you, the kind of election campaigning that has been, and how do you think, Harris or Trump, victory will be for the USA for their elections, but it could also decide the manner in which India-USA relationship goes here on?
See, the race is very tight. There's been a political and sociological churning in America over the last 15 years or so. And you can see the realignment. That's why people are puzzled that, how come 48% of Americans support Trump, whose rhetoric is so violent and he's seen as just so rough. But the thing is, he's, number one, touched on the issues that are important to the people in this election.
Yes.
And he's honed in very well. Immigration, inflation, and some of the gender issues, like all the fuss around transgender issues. Those, believe it or not, resonate with a lot of people. Then there is a divide between the college educated and the non-college educated. So the Democratic Party, most of the supporters are more educated. The Democratic Party has become the party of the elite over the years, whether they like it or not, whether they admit it or not, but that's just the facts. And increasingly, the Republicans are the party of the working class, which is, one of the biggest ironies of my life, living here for the last 20, 25 years. So in terms of, that's why the race is so tight, things are so close, and nobody can say for sure who's going to win. It could be either candidate, depending on voter turnout, whether the number of women who vote for Kamala Harris is larger than the number of men who have broken for Trump. A slice of Black American men, slice of Latinos, even Indian American young men have kind of drifted towards Trump. All this is very, whether the polls capture it or not,
Correct.
We don't know.
Now, Seema, also tell me, because I'm also, like I was asking you, what do you think, how do you see how the next American president will take or should take the relationship with India also here on? Indian American is such a strong vote base for them, at least in terms of their positive contributions and influence in American society, but eventually they're also dealing with possibly another nation right now. India has changed so much over the years.
Right. So, the good news is that there's bipartisan support for the relationship with India. So whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, broadly the relationship will stay on track. There will be differences on the edges, on the margins, and that India will be able to deal with, I'm sure. The unpredictable part would be if Trump is elected, how he would deal with trade, with sanctions on Iran. If you remember last time when he was president, the very strict sanctions on Iran prevented India from buying Iranian oil. So that became a huge problem. Trade is another issue. If Kamala Harris is elected, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party and her own interest in the issues of Kashmir, human rights, etc.,
correct,
could come to the fore. So those are the two things, but the strategic outline of this relationship, which is broadly based on the fact that the Americans need India to counter China.
Very true. I think you made that important point. I also found interesting what you said about Trump's issues, because let's say for Indians or other ethnicities or other nationalities, immigration restriction may not look well, but for the American there, they believe that that's important. And many of them, specifically in the Southern Belt, may feel that it will help them retain their jobs. That's one of the sentiment that we have heard. But what I found fascinating, and I request all of you to stay on with me, is the Indian-American decision. Some of them, like you heard, are going to support Donald Trump, while some have already endorsed Kamala Harris. In fact, India Today's Rohit Sharma spoke to a popular Indian origin American actor, Poorna Jagannathan, who has endorsed Harris, and why. Let's listen in.
When a lot of people talk about this election, and I've talked to a lot of Indian American leaders and voters and volunteers, there's a Desi factor that everybody's talking about, Indian American voters, and they could see this election one way or the other. What has your experience been, especially because you live in California? A lot of Indian people live there. What's on their mind right now? Have they voted? Are they voting for Kamala Harris? What have you picked up on?
I am amazed at that. This is probably the first election where not only the Indian American, but I was phone banking with the Korean Americans yesterday. It was just hundreds of people, but it is groups of people with immigrant ties. In our communities and the Asian Pacific Islander communities that are getting together. And there's two ways. I think the campaign has done a great job of organizing the Asian American Pacific Islander vote and reaching out to us. And the voter population is responding to that call. And also the amount of Indian Americans, especially Indian American women who are in politics right now and on the ground right now and can jump on Zoom calls and can jump on for resources to help us navigate everything that's going on. That has exploded. I was just in Wisconsin last weekend, surrounded by Ms. Harris's aides, and just like their commitment to democracy. We've seen us in, doctor positions and lawyer positions and now in entertainment, but the force we have in politics cannot be underestimated. And they are galvanizing us, and they see themselves in the democratic process, or inviting us to see ourselves in the process as well.
Well, you can for sure say one thing, that this way or that Indian Americans or Americans and other ethnicities have decided who they possibly are going to vote for, because it is as much personal as it is political of how they decide the future is going to be for America. Rohit is joining me for now, because Rohit, I don't want to keep you waiting. I understand that there's a lot of work to be done as well on the ground. You tell me, when does the polling begin? What kind of arrangements that have been made? Because what is the last pitch that these leaders are making now that is all that they can do and people decide? So some of the last edges that you can tell us about.
Well, look, everything is in place. I was speaking with somebody in Maryland, and they're already placing the voting machines, and they have this drill that they have to do. They have to make sure ballots are counted and tallied and all that. So there are volunteers lined up to help these counties out. And look, Pooja, I just got a text from somebody in the Republican camp, and I asked them to start to take sense of what's going on. And I said, are you believing polls? And they said, polls are polls. The only poll that matters is what happens tomorrow. So I think nobody is taking anything for granted. I mean, it's a very, very close race. Even if, people believe that there is momentum with Donald Trump, that Donald Trump could actually win this election, they're not taking anything for granted. On the Kamala Harris's camp, we've seen that nervous anxiety, flashbacks, some people talking about flashbacks to 2016. And look, in all sincerity, she only had 100 days to run this campaign. So there is that sense of reality to that as well.
And it's high stakes,
but,
high stakes as much, I think, for Donald Trump, for the legal cases that he had been facing, and for Kamala Harris, whether she's got this big opportunity and can she really then ride it on the shoulders. That's I think, is going to be a big test, clearly, for all these leaders. All the best, Rohit. I'll let you go for now. Thank you for the updates that you've been sending us. Navneet Chugh, I bring him in now, Senior Attorney and Head of California Chair. And thank you for keeping your patience, sir. You tell me that at this point, when we talk of Indian Americans or the diaspora or America at large, how crucial do you think this election is from where the country goes ahead and the communities as well involved?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's a very proud moment for India. Indians are 1.2% of the US population.
Yes.
From such a small minority, if she becomes the president, it'll be a great achievement. It's especially great for the 200 million girls in India under the age of 18 and the 800 million girls under the age of 18 in the world. I think the biggest glass ceiling will be broken. I'm pretty confident she will be the next president. She would be the first Black, the first South Asian, the first Indian, the first female president. I don't know. America is a great country. 4% of the world's population has 25% of the world's wealth. But for some reason, America has not been able to elect a female president. I'm reminded that we had Queen Matilda in 1140, year 1140. We had Razia Sultana ruled Delhi in 1240. We had Queen Mary in 1540. We had Jhansi Ki Rani in 1840. We had Indira Gandhi in 1966. 80 of the 192 countries in the planet have had a woman ruler. But I don't know what's up with the United States. When the country was formed in 1788,
what a nice historical lesson that you've given us, Mr. Chok. So, but a question there. I understand we find a representation and we all connect to it in different ways. This is as personal. But is that putting a lot of expectation on Kamala Harris? Because what if she doesn't then go ahead, if she wins, with that representation to the community, to India, to Indian origins, because she would say, I'm an American president and I do with the policies here at large. And many would question if that representation has found a consequence and a repercussion and a connect to it.
Well, I think human beings have the capacity to be multifaceted. And I think the human being's brain can handle many thoughts at the same time. She is an American. She was born in the United States. She is a lawyer. Of the 46 presidents that US has had, 26 of them have been lawyers. Hopefully she'll be the 47th president and the 27th lawyer. She loves India. She eats Indian food. We've supported her in California for the last 25 years. Every time she would run for an election, she would be the underdog. The media would say there is no way she's going to win. District attorney, attorney general, senator, vice president, and every time she wins, she's never lost an election. So I think she has a deep caring for India, just like she does a deep caring for all of America. I think she will be, she has great experience in the government as prosecutor, as district attorney, as California attorney general, as US senator. We've had no scandals with her. She believes in democratic principles. I think she'll bring stability, empathy, and responsibility to the presidency that we will not have if she doesn't win.
And I have to say that for India, what has been normal in so many ways to have a woman leader, for America, they're still debating about it and whether that can happen. And this time, it could be Kamala Harris or it would be the return of Donald Trump. I have to thank all the guests. Thank you for your views and perspectives. Would have loved a longer conversation with each one of you, but perhaps in the days to come, we would have the pleasure of all of you joining us again. Thank you very much. And it is the eve, the election night for the USA, but eventually it's about people on the ground who have to cast their vote. Geeta Mohan, our Foreign Affairs editor, spoke to the members of the Indian diaspora, their views as well, because they may be, so to say, a minority, but their contribution, their influence in American society has been acknowledged definitely over the years. Let's listen into them.
This election, everybody's talked about how it is important. Immigration is a very important issue, but the distinction, and earlier you saw Trump really talking about immigrants, outsiders, aliens. Yeah. But he's made that shift. He now very specifically focuses on illegal immigration. Yeah. His party's focusing on illegal immigration. And to be fair, for all those who are sitting here, they've worked very hard to come and to reach the United States of America legally. So it is a battle for the Indian community over here also to ensure that that there is no illegal route. That if the Republicans are fighting for against illegal immigration, it's a good thing. Right, Ravi?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think this is really a crucial question, right? Because for ensuring that when you're looking at the rule of law, right, or the land is critical. And I think if you look at the Indian diaspora, which is always, I think we're known for over-following rules, which is great. And I think we've seen from the student's perspective, from a professional perspective, from business perspective, now from a media perspective, it's been a big learning, having spent about 20 years here. You see very clearly that the awareness with this young generation who are contributing every day, many of us, and then Jagdishji, who's been here, one of our leaders and mentors, we see that there's a very clear shift. I think the way the Republicans has been very, very clear, they want to see America do better, progress, and they want to look at, if you're coming as a legal immigrant, they want to bring a particular skill set, a business interest, which is critical for the economy because we are changing as the world is moving forward. And I think India really comes in a very crucial point because India has a very clear march towards 2047, which is looking at a 55 trillion economy. And if you're looking at India and America business interests, it is very much complementary, and it's a very clear synergistic, I would say, time for us to really see that happening. So immigration matters. The way we are working through it, we want to see many of our young generation leaders come into the place and be integrated into society through a legal process. So somewhere there is a very strong, I would say, sense of unfairness, especially with the Indian diaspora, the green card rate, the issue of, our young folks not coming in, whereas illegal immigrants get these opportunities that legal young professionals are not getting it.
So remember, everyone's thinking, debating, discussing in America, irrespective of their ethnicities or political opinions. But what happened right after the elections will be also very crucial. Both sides, Kamala Harris to Donald Trump, have been saying, is there an election fraud? That's what Kamala Harris said Trump represents. Donald Trump on the other side is saying this is a demonic Democratic Party and they are using only paper ballots, which shouldn't be done while the world is moving on to electronic voting machines. So here's a special report. Are either of these leaders going to cry foul if they lose? Take a look.
Will he or won't he accept America's decision if it does not go in his favor? That's the big question citizens, analysts and poll watchers are asking. In his last speech for support in Pennsylvania, Trump reiterated his election fraud charge.
They are fighting so hard to steal this damn thing. Look at what's going on. Look at what's going on in your state. Every day, they're talking about extending hours and stuff. Who ever heard of this stuff? We should have one-day voting and paper ballots.
Recently, a viral video showed a Kentucky voter claiming he could not select Donald Trump on a voting machine. The video showed that the machine did not indicate the voter's selection and eventually selected Vice President Kamala Harris. The Kentucky Attorney General's office did confirm the glitch, saying it was a voter error that is easily preventable and did not impact the voter's final ballot. But the video did raise concerns about the integrity of elections.
Our country is a crooked country, okay? It's a crooked country, and we're going to make it straight. We're going to make it straight, and it's not an easy thing to do.
Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris has urged voters to not fall for Trump's tactic on election fraud.
So here we are on the Sunday before the election, and I would ask, in particular, people who have not yet voted, to not fall for his tactic, which I think includes suggesting to people that if they vote, their vote won't matter. Suggesting to people that somehow the integrity of our voting system is not intact so that they don't vote.
Trump continues to falsely claim his 2020 loss to Democratic President Joe Biden was the result of widespread fraud in multiple states that Trump lost, while he and his supporters have spread baseless claims about his current election in Pennsylvania.
Well, if Trump is defeated, he will not accept the result, and will do everything he can to try to prevent that count on, I think it's January 5th this year, where they're certifying the presidential electoral votes. The difference between 2024 and 2020 is that he's not president. And he doesn't have the kind of levers of power that he was fully able to exercise to try to prevent a Biden victory in the electoral college.
In a neck-and-neck fight, charges, counter-charges, and misinformation is flying thick and fast. Bureau Report, India Today.